The Wano arc in One Piece has come a long way. As of recording this, it currently sits as the longest arc in the series, surpassing Dressrosa. And as the story seems to be heading to its climax, it's pretty clear just how massively monumental it's been. While I can't deny that there were times where the pace dragged, despite this, when I look back, a lot has happened. And one of my favorite parts is the story of Kozuki Oden. Hi my friends, I'm Mike and welcome to the Lions Lounge, where today we'll be talking about this incredible character and his role in the third act of the Wano arc, and its impact on the One Piece story as a whole. And I figured what better way to celebrate Oden than over some sake, a very popular and common pairing with the actual dish. Before we get started though, it's worth noting that this video has massive spoilers for the plot of One Piece into Wano. So if you're not caught up, now may be a good time to do so. With that out of the way, let's grab a drink and then dive into the story. To start this off, I'm no expert when it comes to sake. However, I am aware there's two primary ways to consume it, hot and cold. And because this is an Oden video, they're all gonna be served up hot. This first sake is Momokawa Silver Dry Crisp. So I'm gonna take my decanter that is nice and hot and pour it right into my glass. What I love about sake is the extremely sweet aroma that it gives off. The best comparison I can give is to a very sweet wine, but sake has a very noticeable nose on it that differentiates it between other wines. All right, let's go to taste. Yeah, dry and crisp is right. Immediately I get that sort of sensation that you have when you bite into a nice fresh apple. It's sweet, but not overly sweet, so it's really highly accessible. I definitely get those fruity notes, but it's highly distinct compared to a white wine. Overall, this is a great start. I'm really enjoying this. So Kozuki Oden is first mentioned towards the end of the Zoo arc, when it's revealed that Momonosuke and Kinemon were not actually father and son, but that Oden, the former Daimyo of Curry in Wano, was Momonosuke's father, and Kinemon one of Oden's retainers. The duo then requests help from the Straw Hat crew in order to overthrow the current shogun of Wano, Orochi, and Kaido, one of the four emperors, the two of whom were responsible for Oden's death. It's revealed as well that Kinemon and Momonosuke, alongside other members of the Nine Red Scabbards, Oden's retainers, have actually been sent to the current time by Momonosuke's mother, just before her death. Meaning for these characters, Oden's passing is still fresh in their minds, while for others they've spent 2 decades under Orochi's tyranny, something that becomes painfully apparent in those left behind. But while I'd love to dissect the whole plot of Wano, I want to instead focus on the story of Oden. Prior to his official reveal, a lot of hype and mystique was built up around this character, known as the only person to have ever wounded Kaido, as well as having sailed with both Whitebeard and Roger at one point. Needless to say, expectations were high, but Oden far exceeded them. Hell, when we first meet the dude, he's eating Oden soup over top the smoldering remains of a deceased resident, and then later fights and defeats a wild boar called the Mountain God, only to be exiled for the damage caused. But this strength and strength of character is also what leads him to meet people like Kinemon, Denjiro, Ashiradoji, and other characters who later become his retainers. All the while, Oden has greater dreams beyond Wano. Dreams of leaving this closed-off nation and traveling the world. Dreams that will eventually be realized when he meets Whitebeard. And it's here I want to take a short break to try some more sake. This next one is Hakutsuru's Superior Junmai Ginjo sake, which, when heating it up, I could already tell it's very sweet. So on the nose, as I said, it smells a lot sweeter than the previous one. You definitely get that sort of apple spices kind of smell a little bit more than the last one. Let's go to taste. Oh yeah, way sweeter. I might be imagining it, but this one also seems to have a little bit more power behind it. And while they're both hot, this one, I don't know, seems to have a little bit more warmth to it. And by that I mean it's cozy. It almost makes me think of crawling up by a fire and enjoying a lot more of this. Okay, so Whitebeard and his crew at one point stop at Wano. And after Oden briefly clashes with them, he realizes how strong Whitebeard is and requests they take him with them on their travels. Whitebeard, though, is hesitant. But after witnessing Oden's fortitude and valor when he meets and saves Toki, the pirate captain agrees, and Oden becomes a member of the Whitebeard Pirates. Along their journey, Oden and Toki marry and have 2 children, Momonosuke and Hiyori, And not long after, the crew encounter the future pirate king, Goldie Roger. Roger reveals that he and his crew found the final island on the Grand Line. Only there was actually one more island they weren't able to get to, and its location was hidden away, only to be found with knowledge obtained from 4 road poneglyphs, which Oden can apparently read. Learning this, Roger requests that Oden travel with him and complete his journey. Thus, Oden becomes one of the few individuals to have found the One Piece and to learn the history of the Void Century. Their quest complete, Oden returns home to Wano, where Toki and his children were dropped off while traveling with Roger, as Toki grew sick aboard the ship and needed rest. However, instead of being greeted by his people, he finds them now living in fear under the rule of Orochi, who sees control through deception and maintains it with the help of Kaido. While Oden initially intends to overthrow Orochi, the new shogun threatens the people of Wano if Oden defies him, and instead they strike a deal, where if Oden parades himself around as a fool every week for 5 years, Orochi and Kaido would spare the people and leave. And feeling cornered, Oden agrees. Flash forward 5 years though, and Oden is no longer able to bear the atrocities Orochi has committed, and gathers the 9 red scabbards to make an assault on Orochi and Kaido. And here is the real climax of Oden's tale. Together, the group come extremely close to defeating the future emperor, Oden personally wounding him, but in a brief moment, he's deceived and overpowered, leading to him and his retainers being captured and sentenced to death by boiling. In a last-ditch effort, Oden makes a bet with Kaido. If Oden can survive for 1 hour in the boiling water while holding his retainers, they'll all be freed. And amazingly, Oden succeeds. But just before the hour ends, Orochi changes his mind and demands they all be executed anyway. Oden forces his retainers to escape and, with no more strength left in him, is killed by Kaido. Oden's last words echoing throughout Wano and throughout time, which is where our story currently continues, with the embers of Oden's legacy living on in his retainers and Kaido's own son, Yamato. Oden's story by far is one of the greatest highlights in the Wano arc, and he became one of my favorite characters in One Piece. Truly a legend that lived an incredible life. So lastly, in honor of Oden, I wanted to make a hot sake cocktail that incorporated one of these sake as well as amaretto. This cocktail I found is called the Warm Spring. So first up, you're gonna wanna take 1.5 ounces or 45 milliliters of a sake, preferably a dried crisp one, and pour that right into an insulated glass. Next, 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of amaretto. This is an almond liqueur. And lastly, top that up with some hot water. This is gonna be about 2 ounces or 60 milliliters. Then drop in a sugar cube and give it a gentle stir to incorporate. And lastly, garnish it with a cinnamon stick. And there you have the Warm Spring. Cheers. Ooh, this is really good. The reason I recommend a drier sake over a sweeter one is that amaretto is already super sweet and then you have the sugar cube. So if you go with a sweeter sake, that sweetness is gonna be way too overpowering. Whereas the drier sake is still sweet, but much better incorporates with the rest of these ingredients. What's also interesting is that you can still smell that appley crispness, combined with the amaretto and that hint of cinnamon. And over time, that sugar cube will dissolve further and slightly change the taste of the drink. Overall, this is a very warm, sweet, and comforting cocktail, and I'm probably gonna have a lot more of these in the future. So today we sampled some sake, made a cocktail, and talked about Kozuki Oden. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe. If you have any other cocktails you'd like me to make from your favorite series, let me know in the comments below. If you wanna see what I make outside this channel, follow me on Twitter at Mr. Spacelion or Instagram at Mr.Spacelion. But thank you so much for stopping by the Lions Lounge. I've been your bartender, Mike, and I hope to see you next time.